Some new backlash over the Department of Government Efficiency's dramatic government cuts. More Republican lawmakers getting an earful from angry constituents. Listen to what happened when Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas suddenly left his contentious town hall during a question and answer session about U.S. veterans getting fired.
But what you're doing right now, what the government is doing right now, as far as cutting out those jobs, a huge percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans.
Yes.
And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a damn shame.
I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans, man.
Well, I yielded to one of my elders, and I appreciate his comments. I think it's a great. We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
We're going to take pictures with you, buddy, right? Vote you out.
Joining us now is Doug Jackson. He is a Marine veteran. He is one of many federal employees who has been among the Trump administration's firings. He recently lost his probationary job at the IRS. Doug, just first off, tell us why you chose to work for the federal government. What attracted you to this work?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Brianna. Federal government is a natural fit for a lot of veterans. One of the first things you do when you become a civil servant is you raise your right hand and take the oath to support and defend the Constitution. And that's something that we all did when we wore the uniform. And I think it's an extension of our military service to continue serving in the federal government and looking out for the public interest.
And just to be clear about your job that you were holding, that you were new to, you did public affairs for the IRS. If anyone could use that, I think we could agree it would be the IRS. What does it mean firing people in those positions?
Well, it's not good on a personal level. It puts people's livelihood in jeopardy. It turns their lives upside down. And so now they have to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. And now they have a new job, which is applying and networking. And so on an individual level, it's turning lives upside down with uncertainty. But also on a larger scale, for an agency like the IRS, they need public affairs officers. They need people who are expert communicators who can reach the public in a meaningful way and explain new policies and even speak to the workforce. And so it's going to have a negative effect. I can't imagine cutting people like me or anyone really across the IRS or the federal government is going to help the mission.
And just explain your situation. It sounds like they went through the probationary cuts and you were so new that the axe initially didn't hit you, but then they came back to get you. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. I had a coworker who is a disabled Army veteran who received her termination on a Thursday. I knew I was in the same category as she was, but I was even newer than she was. And so I did not receive a termination notice that same day. But the very next day on Friday, I received a call from my team lead. That day I was receiving the call was in fact my last day, and that a letter was being overnighted to me. And that would be my official termination letter.
What message does that send you? You mentioned your coworker, a disabled veteran. What message does that send, firing folks like that, to the veteran community?
Yes, sure. So I think the mass wave of federal employees who've been fired by DOJ, I think it sends 2 messages. One, it's telling veterans, thank you for your service, but that's not enough. The government is in debt, and we also need to take your job. So that's one. And the second thing that I think it's telling veterans is, that you are part of the problem, not the solution. And it suggests that as veterans working for the federal government, that we are somehow dead weight or a burden on the government. And I think that's a real shame.
I wanted to ask you something because I think people are really looking at these IRS firings and they're very concerned. In fact, I was speaking to a veteran who was fired in the Department of Agriculture, and one of the things that worried them was the IRS firings, because so many folks who find themselves without a job are really going to be looking for that lifeline of their tax return. You're in public affairs, you were in public affairs, but there are all kinds of different jobs that have been targeted or are expected to be targeted. Do you worry that firings at the IRS could impact tax returns?
I'm not sure. I mean, I wasn't an agent. I worked with others who were. I can't imagine that this is going to have a positive effect on turnaround time for returns. But like you said, there are other agencies affected, and the federal government already has a difficult time recruiting, retaining their workers. And so this is going to have a discouraging effect across the workforce.
Doug, thank you so much for being with us and telling us your story. I know it's not easy, and we really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Brianna.
As the deadly measles outbreak in Texas grows, Health Secretary RFK Jr. issuing a call to action, but stopping short of calling for a very specific life-saving measure. We'll have that next.